So I've been looking at giving. That's a big subject. It's unbelievable, all the scriptures, Old Testament and the New Testament that talks about giving. But I'm going to focus in on 2 Corinthians 9, verses 6 through 15. But this I say, he that soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he that soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Let each man do according as he hath prospered in his heart, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound unto you, that ye, having always all sufficiency in everything, may abound unto every good work. As it is written, he hath scattered abroad and hath given to the poor. His righteousness abideth forever. Verse 10 in 2 Corinthians, we're in 2 Corinthians 9. And he that supplieth seed to the sower for bread, for food, shall supply the multitude for seed for sowing, and increase the fruits of your righteousness, ye being enriched in everything unto liberality, which worketh through us thanksgiving to God. For the ministration of this service will not only filleth up the measure of the wants of the saints, but aboundeth also through many thanksgiving unto God. Verse 13, seeing that through the proving of you by this ministration they glorify God for the obedience of your confession unto the gospel of Christ, and for the liberality of your contribution unto them and unto all. And the last verse in 14, while they themselves also with supplication on behalf long after you by reason of the exceeding grace of God in you. Oh, last verse 15. Thanks be to God for the unspeakable gift. That unspeakable gift is grace here. So Paul's first point is a farming analogy. You know, we're all know a little bit about farming. Some know more than others. But those who sow sparingly are going to get a poor harvest, and those who sow generously will get a bountiful harvest. What does this mean to us? How do we apply this? No farmer considers sowing as a loss of seeds, because during the harvest he'll have plenty of seeds for the next season. He willingly sows all that he can and trusts that God will provide a bountiful harvest. So applying this analogy to giving means that plentiful giving will result in a plentiful harvest. This is also known as the sowing and reaping principle. And that principle has been applied to many things. You know, you've heard the term, you reap what you sow. You made your bed, now you get to lie in it. That's part of that principle. So that principle can be tied to different analogies. But here, the idea that generosity to the poor will meet with overflowing blessings in return was common in Jewish thinking. Let's look at Proverbs 11:24 through 28. There is that scattereth and increaseth yet more, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth only to want. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. He that withholdeth grain, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. He that diligently seeketh good seeketh favor, but he that searcheth after evil shall come unto him. He that trusteth in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a green leaf. So Paul makes it clear that what follows that God rewards a generosity with material abundance to make it possible for people to be even more generous. So the more you prosper, the more you get to give back. And so there's one thing, if you can take advantage of it, is the income tax deduction for giving. Now, I think June Yancey told me years ago, for every $100 you give, you get $30 back. Well, when you get that back, what do? You get to give more. So that's part of your prospering and giving back. And it helps make you a cheerful giver. It makes you want to give even more because you think, well, how much can I keep the government from keeping my, how much can I prevent them from keeping my money? I'd rather have my money go towards the Lord's cause than to Washington, D.C. Let's read Malachi 3, verses 6 through 10. For I, Jehovah, change not. Therefore ye, O sons of Jacob, are not consumed. From the days of your fathers ye have turned aside from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of hosts. But ye say, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet ye rob me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with the curse, for ye robbed me, even the whole nation. So that's talking about people who are reluctant to give. You're robbing God. You're not giving God's deserved sacrifice. All right, let's go back and so look at Paul's second point in verse 7 that we read there in 2 Corinthians 9. Talks about each man do according to as he has purposed. Well, his second point was directed specifically to individuals. That's to you and to me. Each man should give what he has decided in his heart to give. Paul echoes scriptures to bolster the need to give generously. Those who give spontaneously from the heart are especially prized by God. In the Old Testament, giving reluctantly or under compulsion is portrayed as canceling out any benefit that could have been received from the gift, while giving with a glad heart promises reward from God. You can read about this in Deuteronomy 15:10, where it talks about give generously to him and do so without a grudging heart. Then because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and everything you put your hand to. The amount makes no difference if it is given with a glad heart. But if it is given resentfully, with a gloomy attitude, it will cancel the merits. The merit of the gift, that the gift might have no matter its amount. So no matter how you give, if you give grudgingly, it cancels out your gift to God. Okay, let's read on, or talk about, I guess, and we can read too. Again, 2 Corinthians 9, we'll look at verses 8 through 10. Paul's third point here is for giving. Giving is that God lavishly, generously, and abundantly supplies us with everything necessary to have enough for our own needs and to be generous with others. Let's read verse 8. And God is able to make all grace abound unto you, that ye having always all sufficiency in everything may abound unto every good work, as it is written, He hath scattered abroad, and He hath given to the poor. His righteousness abideth forever. And verse 10, and he that supplies seed to the sower and bread for the food shall supply and multiply your seed for sowing and increase the fruits of your righteousness. The phrase all grace in verse 8 is quite broad in scope, covering the material blessings and the spiritual motivation to share them. Many people become miserable in their giving because they worry about they will not have enough for themselves. Paul assures them that God will supply them with plenty for their needs at any time and uses repetition to carry his point. All grace, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in all good work. And I put all good in brackets. Reluctance to sow generously then reflects the refusal to trust that God is all sufficient and all gracious. It also assumes that we can only give when we are prospering and have something extra that we will not need for ourselves. Paul says that all times God provides us with all, and we need so. There is never any time when we cannot be generous. As noted in verse 8, having all you need translates from the Greek to mean self-sufficiency or contentment. Having enough does not simply mean reducing one's craving for material goods and becoming independent from everyone. It means reducing what you want for oneself so that one has enough to share with others and create the interdependence with them. Having what is sufficient helps Christians to relate more effectively to others, not to withdraw from them. Paul, having all you need means having enough for every good work. Paul's point is that God will provide the means to be generous, that one can sow liberally, which also means freely and cheerfully, as noted in the A part of verse 7. In the confidence that God will bestow a liberal harvest, the more we give, the more we will be given by God to share with others. We may not have all the money that we want, but we will have all the money we need to be abundant in our giving to others. I guess I'll wrap it up right here. It's already 8:01, but Paul believes that God bestows both the generosity and the resources for generosity, which explains why he lists liberality as a spiritual gift. And if you want to go ahead, and there's other verses, you can read Romans 12:8 on your own. That's a good verse to tie into this. But I'm going to wrap it up here. So if there's anyone that's subject to the invitation tonight, the invitation's going to be open for you. If you need prayers for the congregation, we ask you to come as we stand and sing.